In another California city, residents there are grappling with a wave of brazen shoplifting, burglaries, and vandalism. Now, folks, in the great city of San Francisco, well, they're taking action. More than 80,000 people have signed a petition to recall the city's district attorney, Chesa Boudin. He was elected in 2019 as part of a national wave of progressive DAs who vowed to reform the criminal justice system. But, critics say the defense attorney turned prosecutor, well, he's failed to prosecute repeat offenders. Even the city's mayor, London Breed, admits she is disappointed with Boudin and says she knows how she will vote in the June recall election.
I want to see people who are in and out of the jails held accountable to a certain extent. And I don't believe that that is happening to the extent that it should. And I want change.
So you do not know how you're going to vote on the recall yourself as a citizen of San Francisco?
Oh, I do know how I'm going to vote, but I'm not ready to reveal what I plan to do publicly.
Well, Richard Greenberg joins us now. He's a former San Francisco mayoral candidate, now community activist involved in these issues. So first, Mr. Greenberg, how bad is it in your city?
Well, first, thank you for having me here. Listen, it is so disappointing. It's shocking. It's outrageous what's happened here. Our beautiful city by the bay, where we had tourism and flourishing culture, that it has all just come crashing down. And you can't blame COVID, which a lot of the supporters of Chesa Boudin are trying to do. It has nothing to do with COVID, but we have these brazen robberies. We have home invasion robberies. We have smash and grabs at gunpoint, and witnesses are being chased away by being shot at. That is not acceptable. It's more than not acceptable. And this is what we're doing. We're trying to take our city back.
Everyone's heart is in San Francisco, as Tony Bennett says. What a beautiful city. How did this happen? I mean, how was Chesa Boudin elected?
Well, what happened is he ran on a very progressive, very interesting phrasing, how he promised this restorative justice, and it rang with many of the voters on how we need to tweak the system, how we need to reform criminal justice, and a lot of us agree, including myself. But the problem is he took it way too far. He came up with, in his campaign material, all of these different talking points, which he wound up apparently lying. He didn't fulfill most of the promises that he promised to do. And from day one, the moment he was sworn in office 2 years ago approximately, he took the mask off. We saw it. All the red flags went up. He went ahead and started firing 7 of the city's most experienced prosecutors from his office and replaced them with colleagues and people he knew from the defense side. He has no experience as a prosecutor. He is a defendant experience, and he brought in defenders to come in and basically wreak havoc, throw a monkey wrench into the criminal justice system.
Does this come from, his upbringing, Chesa Boudin? Boudin is a very well-known name. His grandfather, Leonard Boudin, was a noted civil rights attorney, represented Daniel Ellsberg in the Pentagon Papers. His mother, Kathy Boudin, convicted of felony murder, served years in prison, member of the radical left militant Weather Underground, convicted in the Brinks robbery. Nyack, New York, 1981, 2 police officers shot dead, a security guard dead. His father, Dave Gilbert, Weather Underground, radical militant, also convicted in that. She is now out. He is now out. That would be, one would seem, the antithesis of law enforcement.
Yes, exactly. Precisely, you summarized it well. In many cases, one would think that if you had radical parents and step parents, foster parents, that you as a child would be brought up to know what is right and wrong. You would know how you should not be, how you should not act. That didn't happen with Mr. Boudin. In fact, he espouses, he embraced both sets of parents' radical ideology. He went to Venezuela back in the late 90s, early 2000. He was a translator with Hugo Chavez regime. He learned the whole Chavez Venezuelan way of a radical change. And this is what he's done. He's actually come in. We're now starting the 3rd year under his regime here in San Francisco. And we can't wait to vote him out if we couldn't find another way to get him out, like indictments. This is what we need. We need federal level investigations.
All right. Well, in New York, there's a new controversial DA here, Alvin Bragg. There is no similar recall mechanism for the people in New York to do that, though the governor can. Mr. Bragg, this last week, was talking about prosecutorial discretion, and maybe Mr. Boudin would say, hey, I'm the prosecutor, I got discretion. Take a listen to DA Bragg about that.
No prosecutor is enforcing every single law all the time. We're all exercising prosecutorial discretion. You could take one set of conduct and charge it probably 10 different ways.
Their defense, finally, they would say, well, I'm the prosecutor and I'm using my judgment on what I want to prosecute.
Yes and no. There still are standards. They're still upholding the law, the need to follow some semblance of law and order and criminal justice. And what you've seen, what Alvin Bragg saying, similar to LA's Gascon, and the same thing here in San Francisco, they're using the playbook. It's as if there was some seminar held over the weekend and brought in all of these rogue DAs and rogue DA wannabes and teach them how to dismantle and destroy criminal justice.
Richard Greenberg of San Francisco waiting on the recall petition effort for the DA there at Chester Bodine. Mr. Greenberg, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.